Sooners dropped the series in Bedlam, but look to bounce back in the Big 12 tournament. Alex Storako joins the show to break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It was a rough week with Bedlam. We got Alex Storako joining us to break it all down, get us ready for the Big 12 tournament as well. Alex, let's start with Bedlam. Oklahoma lost the series, their second series loss of the season, the other one being to Texas. But hey, they're still a good team. They had a really strong win on Sunday. But just kind of take us through just big picture takeaways from what happened in Norman, not in Oklahoma City, in Norman, as we get ready to go to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think, Oklahoma State had a great plan pitching-wise against our offense. And when you kind of put a lot of just things not going the Sooner way, it kind of adds up to that loss and another after that. I think the most glaring thing when I just kind of was watching this weekend is the fact of OU Sooners, we love our walks, but I think it's gotten to a point where we're walking too much. We're very passive at the plate and not just attacking. I feel like right now opposing pitchers are very comfortable in throwing to OU's offense, and just the fact of they can sneak away, a strike or a foul ball and everything. And all of a sudden it's quite frustrating just going from seeing, a Sooner hitter going from 3-0 to a full count really quickly. And then all of a sudden, you fall behind and they kind of start swinging defensively. And I feel like there's just hasn't been an attack mode that I'm really seeing offensively. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And so going into, Sunday and seeing that kind of change, and even not even from the players, but, you heard Coach Gasso talk about it and just putting on some hit and runs and everything, kind of forcing the players to swing the bat, getting back in that kind of on the attack instead of being defensive at the plate. I think that adds to a lot. As well as just I think too, the girls just know they're not playing to their potential. So I think the pressure of that, fans aren't happy. And, I am going to be the first to say, if you've never played softball or baseball, please don't talk, because the sport is hard, even though, we've made it look so easy for the past couple of years. And so I think those are some just bigger takeaways out of, the series. Obviously it's frustrating that the two series we do drop, it's to OSU and to Texas, but I think that also goes to show how strong the Big 12 is this year in a conference as a whole. And so I'm kind of just excited to see how they take Sunday's win and kind of use that as that chip on their shoulder and just motivation to keep growing and get better as, we're officially in postseason now.
Yeah, this is an Oklahoma team that has lost a couple of series, 3-game series of the Big 12 for the first time ever. That had never happened until this year. But they've also lost those couple of series against teams that, have they sort of staked their claim as legitimate national championship contenders? And maybe because we've been spoiled with the success of Oklahoma, we lose sight of the fact that, look, Texas and Oklahoma State are both really good in their own respects. So let's tip the cap to opponents that showed up and played Oklahoma well as well. What do you think of this? We had somebody on the radio side that texted us and said, if you could just live in just this world of this season, right? Remove Oklahoma's success from the last however many years, and you see a 46-6 record, a second place finish in this conference that has a couple of other potential national championship contenders in certainly WCWS contenders in Texas and in Oklahoma State. You've got a 46-6 record. Most fan bases would be looking at it and saying, okay, we got a great chance to make a strong postseason run toward a national championship, but it's Oklahoma and the standard has kind of it's altered perception a little bit. Are we just has our perception just gotten a little bit too skewed to where we don't understand that I don't want to say it's okay to lose series, but look, you played a couple of good teams and they beat you a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the thought process is a little skewed because of that history, because of the success, because of that impossible was made very possible by the former teams wearing Oklahoma across their chest. And so I think a lot of the surprise and disappointment from fans comes from they expected it next year out of the SEC, and they've been spoiled in the Big 12 where it hasn't been as competitive as a league until kind of the recent years. But I think with just the veteran status of this lineup and it being, in the Big 12 last season, there's a lot of expectations that a lot of viewers have on this team and this program. And I think that's where, you get the, disappointed, angry, mouthy fans that aren't used to losing. And they didn't expect it this year. I think that's the big thing. It's like supposed to be some, year-long parade of, see you later, Big 12, and they're not getting it. And I think just also reflecting, I feel like the girls, truthfully, in my conversations, have took so much to learn from out of these losses that they've never really had to face in previous years. And I feel like they're doing a much better job at handling these losses and the learning process way better than the fans. And I think that's the best thing because obviously the fans aren't playing the game, the girls are. So as long as they're learning and they're, getting better in the process, that's all that matters because that's going to eventually make fans happy, getting that winning product from it. But I think the biggest thing is just like being able to still be a fan and support, the players that you love because, as a fan, yes, you live and breathe these sports, but this is a sport, that as athletes, we put so much, into whether that's, physical health, mental health, all of it. And, it's not like they're just giving up. I mean, even in Saturday's game, OU goes down and Kinsey Hansen's quite literally running into, the wall to, make an out and everything. So, and was hurting afterwards. And so they're putting everything out there that they can. And I think that's a really good sign to see they're not just completely giving up. I feel more of the giving up energy, especially this weekend out of the fans, if not anyone else.
So then looking at Sunday's game, Karlie Keeney gets the start, pitches a really, really nice game, helps Oklahoma get that big win. And that I think can help, rectify some feelings and help Oklahoma have a little bit of momentum going into the postseason. But talk about Karlie Keeney's performance, and let's just talk a little bit about that Sunday game where Oklahoma got the big win over Oklahoma State.
I mean, she was kind of locked down all weekend. I think people forget she also appeared in Friday and Saturday's game. So for her to have a weekend line of 10 innings pitched and giving up only 4 hits and 5 strikeouts and only 4 walks and no runs, weekend as a whole, I think obviously Sunday she was stellar. The runs that were scored were from hitters that were put on from Kirsten Deal's short appearance of just strung together singles, nothing too major. And so when you add that kind of last minute kick from a pitcher in the rotation, I think that's going to be huge. Going into this part of the season, I thought she did so well at just, mixing up the strike zone and doing well with relying on her defense. And I thought the defense really stepped up in a lot of ways. I know there was some things that were scored differently as in errors and everything, but I think behind Karlie, they did great. And I think it's really good to see that kind of fight, not only out of, Karlie Keeney as an additional pitcher, but also just out of the offense. Obviously OSU came and, tied it up, and then they kind of took a different attitude, I feel like, in the rest of the game after that. And of course, Jada Coleman, getting ahead, and then they just kind of stayed ahead from there and had that energy. And there was that different kind of passion that I haven't seen out of, this team for a lot of the season. And so to kind of see that, I'm like, it's still there. They have it. I know they have it. It's within them. But to see that kind of used in a true, maybe not as staged, but just it didn't feel forced at all. And I think that's a really good sign moving into, the Big 12 tournament this upcoming weekend.
Alex, you're the perfect person to ask this because you've been a pitcher in some of the highest stress situations. And probably you can jog my memory here, I guess, but how often did it happen for you where, things are going great and all of a sudden coach sees something and says, hey, call to the bullpen, and all of a sudden then you get called upon to re-enter a game? I thought that was impressive from Keeney that she answered that call to re-enter the game. What is that like as a pitcher, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah. I feel like in my time at OU, I really didn't have to go into that problem. I feel like I kind of went through it more at Michigan, but it is really hard at times, kind of, coming out of the game, you did well, you did your job. So you're like, okay, I did my job. Now it's, to that next person. And when out of the long list of girls who are able to go into the game and you get called on again, I think, there is a process of having to check back in mentally and know that, okay, like it's going to be a grind and you have to get ready for a different sort of fight. I feel like, because it's like, almost a win-win. The momentum is, on the other side. OSU had a little bit of momentum and, they thought that they were, going to make something out of a little bit of a stumble out of the pitching circle. And I feel like Karlie Keeney just kept her composure and she really went at hitters still and had a different kind of warrior mentality. And, I love to see that out of her, and being able to just, like I said, like rely on her defense and not have to take the weight on her shoulders. I feel like in a lot of different ways, some pitchers could go into the, okay, well, she couldn't get it done. Like, I'm going to have to take it all. And she didn't go into that mindset. And I think that was huge as well. And just kind of shows that mentality and kind of, the pitcher she's built herself to be coming out of, Liberty as a program and being the kind of caliber pitcher that she is.
We got more from Alex Storako here on Locked On Sooners. We're going to break down Big 12 tournament coming up. Got a few questions about where Oklahoma's at as we get ready for Oklahoma City coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So do you think that this is kind of a follow-up to the Karlie Keeney discussion? Do you think that her kind of aggressive mindset and Patty Gasso almost taking a more aggressive approach, do you feel like that helped unlock the offense a little bit to where they swung a little bit more free? Because you talked about the walks, and Oklahoma's got more walks this year before postseason play than they did at any point last year. By 30 so far. So the patience has been very, very impressive. Their pitch selection has been very, very impressive. We're not going to sit here and say walks are a bad thing. We're not going to talk like that. I definitely accept the Billy Bean mentality that what do I care how he gets on base? I don't care if it's a hit or a walk. So we're not going to sit here and say walks are bad. But at times, I think of the Alyssa Brito 3-1 count with the bases loaded. I want to say it was on Saturday maybe. And, she pitched right down the middle and she takes it, and I think she was taking all the way. And then we talked about it, got behind and then was a little bit forced. But how much can an aggressive pitching style and an aggressive coach kind of help turn things around as they head into the postseason?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a huge help because it kind of takes that, decision out of your hands so it doesn't rely on you. And I think that's a little bit of like the relieved pressure. I think another big thing too is, they just kind of go into, that they get the order and they do their job. And that's kind of like how coach has implemented her program and the fact of, okay, like this is what I'm giving you. You're going to listen and you're going to do it. And I think, like I said, it just takes the decision out of your hands. There's also a very fine line in a lot of walks is good and a lot of walks is bad. And I feel like we're teetering that at times. And I think that's where, the passiveness and not wanting to get the job done themselves. They're like, okay, I got on base. Okay, I did my job. Who's going to do it? Who's going to step up? And I feel like in a way they're either like pressing to get the job done and pressing to step up and get that hit. And so they're like, you know what, I'm just going to, have a really good eye and next person up can figure it out. And I feel like that's Oklahoma plays. That's not how they coach. I know that's, just not a mentality that's had in that program. And I feel like that's what feels a little off. And so I feel like coach putting it in her own hands of like, okay, you're going to do this, gives them the ability to get aggressive and swinging and attacking on the offensive side, as well as, defensively and as a pitcher as well, and being, comfortable with going right at hitters and not being careful about where you locate a pitch. Because I think that's also a very big contributor, as well as not being careful, because as soon as you're careful, whether that's a hitter or a pitcher or a fielder or whatever, that's when things start to not go your way. And so in a lot of lessons that takes, I think, careful is not good when it comes to softball. And that's what I feel like I've seen the Sooners play, is just careful. And that's just not something that's, on brand for them. And I like that there was a lot of fight and a lot of that attack mode on Sunday.
Well, I would imagine for Patty Gasso, for Oklahoma, for this team, it, if you're trying to iron out final tweaks, you have this Big 12 tournament to do some of that, though. I would imagine, and you can speak to this, that this is not treated as, hey, it's final tweaks week. We're ramping up. It's postseason time in the Big 12 tournament. What does sort of that look like for the Oklahoma program when the Big 12 tournament arrives? What is the mindset internally for the program?
Yeah, I think a big thing is you get to play somewhere where this team's comfortable. You're playing at, down the road at exit 132, and you're playing at now Devon Park, and being able to just kind of get onto a field and atmosphere that you're used to. I know Love's was kind of different, had to get used to. I know Coach talked about that a little bit, but this is a place where not a lot of teams are used to playing, but OU is. And I think that they have to really kind of grasp that going into this, and knowing that they're comfortable on that field, in that atmosphere, with that kind of energy. Because I've heard it's just different compared to Love's and just that kind of stage. And for some reason, OU knows just how to turn it on when they need to. And that's what I feel like is gearing up for this week, and being able to kind of adjust on the fly. They're in a different position that they are not used to in the past years, of being a little bit of a lower seed and having to see who plays in for these games, and kind of adjust on the fly, and being able to not focus or really kind of dive into one singular team and try to be perfect. Out of these 3 games, it's like, okay, like attack mode, like we get a different opponent each day, and really see how we can just kind of slice and dice instead of, plan and perfect. And I think that's going to be a really big mentality, as well as, just like I said, that comfortability. I know they didn't have the Hall of Fame Classic this year, obviously with just the additional Big 12 teams, but this is going to be a big step in just kind of claiming that energy at, this field that they're used to playing in.
I think you hit on something there that's really intriguing, in that so much has been made about Oklahoma's preparation, the film work. We've talked a lot about the film work, on this show, and how much it did help you. Is there a point where you do begin to over prepare or overthink, and you just don't just go play?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of being prepped, but not hyper fixating on it. Just kind of that preparation to a fault. And I think sometimes with so much data and so much film and so much, kind of charting or whatever, you kind of dive into that instead of just playing the game. And I think that they've gotten away from just playing the game, playing free, the game that they've grown up loving and have just can probably play in their sleep, quite literally. And so I think they've gotten away from that in a little bit. And I know there's so much that goes into it, and that's, the expectations and the success and what's at stake of, bragging rights. I mean, you lose to, 2 of your rivals. And so I think there's a lot that goes into it. I was excited to see that they had that fight that showed a little bit of that instinctual part of themselves on Sunday against Bedlam. And I think that'll be really, really big, of just kind of going back to the basics instead of complicating it too much.
If I can backtrack just to the final Bedlam game, when and this is probably way too inside softball for everybody. But for me, when I think about Oklahoma softball, it's like just when you think Oklahoma's down and out, they get the strikeout, they get out of a jam. You guys go score 4 runs when you just gave up 2, right? Like that's Oklahoma softball. They're back, baby. And to me, I saw that in the 6th inning from Oklahoma. So just look, folks are going to get hung up on the team's lost 6 games, which is really not bad for a lot of folks in softball, but and they lost the series to Bedlam, but they also showed me this is Oklahoma in that 6th inning. So I guess just how important maybe was that for OU?
I mean, I think that was honestly everything in the fact of there wasn't pressure. I think that's the kind of inning that people expected when they went down to Louisiana back however many weeks ago that was. And they just didn't come up with it. And we were like kind of stunned of like, okay, this is weird. Never seen this before. I saw something recently and it's like, did Sooner Magic realize that, we moved down Jenkins a little bit and that we're not at Marita Hines anymore? And I kind of giggled to myself just because like that's what they've come up with for so many years of like, how did they just get that done? How did they come down to their final strike 3 separate times and still walk it off and end up winning that game against Clemson? Like there's so many situations that like we had all of the odds against us and we just figured it out. And I really haven't seen that from this team until really kind of back against the wall on Sunday. And I think that's huge because that's something that I know the girls down, like they feed off of that. They feed off of that, just like never out of the fight mentality. And it's one of my favorite sayings out of Kinsey Hansen in a lot of moments. And that's the kind of like just the dog fight that you see out of the Sooners. And I think it means everything that they showed that on Sunday, to wrap up, the regular season, an emotional senior day, and just kind of leading into, Big 12 and postseason, because that's going to be super, super important.
Yeah, it's one of those performances that can really spur on a run. And hopefully they're ready. They're relaxing, they're chilling, and ready to go play free this week. We're going to ask about Big 12 tournament play. Also, Alex has a new gig we're going to talk to her about coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. There's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. They include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that helps you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. So, Alex, before we get into discussion of Big 12 tournament play, who needs to step up, if the talent has really risen to meet Oklahoma, talk to us about Athletes Unlimited. You're going to be playing with them before the Oklahoma City Spark season gets going. So talk about that. How did that all come about and getting that opportunity?
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen on social, myself, as well as, Kehlani Ricketts, Haley Lee, and Jocelyn Allo are on top of still playing for the Oklahoma City Spark. Let me just emphasize that. We're also playing for the Athletes Unlimited season that is called AUX. So it's going to happen in the first 2.5 weeks of June. So we'll be in Wichita, Kansas playing in the AUX season. And then when that ends, we'll be right in time to, play for Spark and cap off really that season leading up to Great Britain and Team USA. So we're not missing out on any of those, really big series and super fun series with the Spark. We're just adding a little bit to our calendar and kind of just wanting to continue to grow the game. I think that's the biggest part of it. And just adding that collaboration piece between, an independent team as well as, AU. They've kind of established themselves, and we just want to continue to grow the sport and make it that we can all work together. And I think that's a really big piece of it. Jocelyn Allo has been just doing everything under the sun, and I think she's just been such a good person to continue to grow the sport. I mean, she just got her first hit with the Savannah Bananas, and it's been so cool to see her just attack that. And I think, this is just another piece of it where you have a couple of former OU players like myself, Kehlani, and Haley joining Joss and kind of being that bridge and segment way of just joining it all together and, completing, the whole full circle. And so I'm really excited to, be a part of that.
Well, first off, Alex, congratulations to you and your teammates. That's awesome. We're so happy for you to have that opportunity. What do you think about the city of Wichita? Did you guys make a trip to Wichita State? You didn't?
No, it was planned, but it got rained out, I believe. So
right.
I've never been. I know that Cindy McKinney actually plays for AU, and I think that was a big part of, that kind of branding for AUX. I know that this is their third season with AUX because AU championship season is something very different and it's been around a little bit longer. So the first season was in San Diego. Last year, they kind of did both seasons in Rosemont, Illinois, up by Chicago. And so I was kind of hoping, with me being from Chicago area, I was, going to be able to play in a stadium that I've grown up, going to games and playing in myself. But, super pumped for it to be in Wichita. Excited to see what Kansas has to offer and be able to just, continue to play the game I love.
So Big 12 tournament time is coming. The Oklahoma Sooners are the 2 seed. The Texas Longhorns winning the regular season title. They're the 1 seed. What are your expectations out of this team as they go into tournament play? Because as we're seeing, I think the game is getting better across the nation. It's not just Oklahoma. Texas is getting better as a program. Oklahoma State is getting better as a program. Tennessee, just when you think UCLA is down, now all of a sudden they're back and making sure everybody remembers we're still UCLA. So what do you think is going to happen this Big 12 tournament this season? Because Baylor all of a sudden is now up in the top half of the standings after at one point being in last place. So there are teams rolling into postseason play. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, a big thing that comes to mind is just kind of like a gritty team. I feel like I haven't really seen that out of them. And when you mentioned UCLA, they're not one to use the adjective of UCLA is always a gritty team. I feel like UCLA, when you think about them, they're prim and proper, and they've always been good, and they have this just way of a program. And I feel like this year they kind of got knocked down and were forced to be gritty. And so that's what I think of when I think of UCLA right now, and having to just win anyway how. And so right now, I kind of want OU to just get kind of gritty and be able to string stuff together. And maybe it's not, prim and proper, what OU's known for, the home runs and the shutouts and everything like that, and some big pitching performance. I think what's going to take is, I think it's going to be a pitch by committee, truthfully, a lot more than people might think. I also think it's going to have to take a little bit more small ball. I think OU kind of got it started this weekend, and I think they just kind of need to get back into that groove of, letting Jada put down a bunt and Boone going, first to third on something like that, and making defenses work for, the outs instead of just kind of passively going through the motions through an offensive side of the game. And so I think this team just going to have to be scrappy and gritty and something that, the past couple of years they really didn't have to get into because there was just so much talent, so much power. But I know Coach Gasso built this program on chaos and grit and just making things happen. And I think they're going to kind of get back to their roots within, that kind of game plan. And I'm excited to see them kind of morph into that because that's kind of what I'm banking on. And I think that's what we need as a program to move forward into the postseason.
Can these losses be freeing in a way for Oklahoma, that this air of immortality, Oklahoma never loses, this is the 3-time defending champion, however you want to phrase it, right? Can Oklahoma channel it in a way entering the postseason here to where this is a positive in some sense and freeing in a way?
Absolutely. You say that, and I think of Coach Gasso's post game after the last couple of national championships and this last year, especially of everyone's like, oh, how do you feel right now? And she's just like free, relieved. Like there's so much that goes into it that a lot of people and fans don't know. And so I think, like you said, those losses are freeing. They get to just kind of play and back against the wall and just, be able to just let it happen instead of, oh, well, we're OU, we have to hit a ton of home runs and, not make errors, and we have to throw, 10 strikeouts and have a shutout if, it's not a high-ranked team. Like, I feel like right now, like, everything that we've come to know about the softball world is completely upside down in every aspect of the game of, OU loses a couple and UCLA had a rough start to the year and Florida State is not, Florida State that we have come to, know. And so I feel like everything that makes sense in the softball world isn't making sense. And a lot of people is like, where are we going to point the fingers to blame? And I think that's just like a testament to how much the game has grown and gotten better, which I think is super cool. It's competitive and it's fun, and it's pulling in that viewership from maybe a person that wouldn't typically turn on, a softball game. And so I think that's going to be huge, just kind of leading in and let them play how they know, like how they have grown up to know. And so I think, yes, the losses are absolutely freeing because as much as it is, postseason is so much fun, there is a lot of pressure. And so that release and that relief that coach feels after, a really tight win streak filled season of everything, getting that breath of fresh air is nice at times. And so I think they kind of feel that they have gone away from like, oh, we have a target on our back, to kind of changing the mentality. And so I think that's what those losses allow them to do, which I think is great.
One more important, not very important question. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the Dallas Mavericks. What's your series pick?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it'll go to 6 games.
So are you rolling with OKC or Dallas?
Come on now. I'm gonna go Thunder up.
I like it. I like
Sorry,
it.
John.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm choosing to be real quiet on social media this week, so as not to anger 95% of our supporting audience. So
I grew up a Bulls fan, so like I feel like that's also conflicting too. But I've actually really, really enjoyed watching the Thunder play. I've interned for them and everything, and got to see everything, and just the Thunder franchise has been so cool to like see just them very different in a mindset way. And so I think that's just been really exciting too. And just having those internal ties. So I'm going to go.
I think if you win a national championship in the state of Oklahoma, you can kind of root for any Oklahoma team that you want to at that point. So,
right. There's only a few to pick up. You got the Spark and the Thunder. So
that's right. So after the NBA season is finished, everybody, make sure you get your tickets to go see the Oklahoma City Spark, Alex Storako, Jocelyn Allo, Kehlani Ricketts, and
Haley
Lee. I was gonna do it again where I called her Elena Torres, and I was gonna I got caught. I used a wrong image one time. I thought it was Elena Torres. Our image thing at least had it labeled that way, and it was actually Haley Lee. So anyway, but yeah, no, it's fine if you want to root for the Thunder. It's fine. The Mavs, we've got our title back in 2011 with Dirk, so I can't sit here and be all high and mighty if the Thunder beat them. Thunder are a good team. They're fun to watch. If they weren't playing the Mavs, I'd be rooting for the Thunder because I got my best friends, Josh and Alex and my buddy Jason, they're all Thunder fans. My buddy Luke in Oklahoma City, they're all Thunder fans. So I'd be a Thunder supporter too. But this week, I'm sorry, man. Luka Doncic, she's going to bring it. It's going to be the Kyrie Irving show. So, and we're going to leave on that note. No, I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to be a really, really fun, tight series, and it's going to just help raise the profile for all those guys on the Thunder that I think are still flying under the radar a little bit.
For sure. I think what makes them so fun too is like they're like a college team. I mean, what's weird is like half their starting lineup is younger than me, and I feel like that's telling. So, and like they have like the old people barking at Paycom, and I think that's amazing because that's just the energy that I love. And so when you see that in a professional sense, I think it's awesome. So I'm excited to watch.
Should be a great series.
Yeah, I've been following Oklahoma City basketball exploits for a long time. When they had the Hornets up there for a minute during Katrina, Oklahoma City really, really rallied around it. So, like, I have no ill will towards Oklahoma City basketball in any stretch of the imagination because this is an awesome fan base.
It feels like you're just like covering your tracks for later.
No, I truly believe it. Like, I'm a Mavs fan. I'm a Mavericks fan. It is what it is. But Oklahoma City is one of the best fan bases in the NBA, and I'll say that to any Mavs fan that wants to hear it too.
Hopefully you have some ill will in like a week and a half or 2 weeks time.
We'll talk after that. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex Storako. Go check out her merch store, alexstorako.com. Also get them Oklahoma City Spark tickets. Go see AUX up in Wichita, Kansas. Go support women's softball at the professional level as well. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef. Check him out Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KRF Sports app. Check me out at Sooners Wire for the written content. Until next time, she's Alex. That's Josh. I'm John. Boomer.
Sooner.